The Little Princess and Her Brave Father. Once upon a time, in a kingdom surrounded by misty mountains and lush green forests, lived a little princess named Myra. She was no ordinary princess. Her heart was full of love for her people, and her pride in her father knew no bounds. Myra's father, King Alden, was the ruler of the kingdom, and to Myra, he was the strongest, most intelligent, and kindest man in the world. One sunny afternoon, Myra was sitting under a big tree in the royal garden, surrounded by her friends from the village. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she began to tell them the most amazing story about her father. "Do you all know who my father is?" she asked, her voice full of confidence. Her friends giggled, thinking it was a simple question, but Myra's smile only grew wider. She stood up proudly and continued, "My father is King Alden. He is the ruler of our kingdom, and he is the bravest man I know." Her friends looked at each other with awe, some of them even wide-eyed, as Myra began to tell them the tale of her father's strength and wisdom. "Let me tell you what my father did for our village," Myra said, her voice growing serious as she recalled the events. "There was once a terrible storm, the biggest one in years. The river near our village overflowed, and the winds howled like wolves. People were frightened, and everyone thought that the village would be destroyed." She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in, as her friends held their breath. Myra's face was full of admiration as she spoke. "But do you know what my father did?" Myra asked, leaning in closer to her friends. "He didn't panic. He stayed calm and gathered everyone in the village square. My father told them not to worry because he had a plan. He then personally led the teams to build barriers along the riverbanks to prevent the flooding. He worked with the villagers, guiding them, encouraging them, and making sure everyone was safe. He stayed up all night, even when the winds grew fiercer." Her friends were speechless, their eyes wide as they listened to Myra's words. "That's not all," Myra continued, her voice rising with excitement. "When the storm finally passed, the villagers were amazed. The floodwaters never reached their homes, and the village was safe. It was all because of my father's quick thinking and courage." Her friends clapped and cheered, impressed by the story. But Myra wasn't done. She had more to say about her father. "My father is not only strong," Myra explained, her eyes glowing with admiration. "He is also incredibly wise. He has the best advisors, of course, but my father knows how to handle everything on his own. Sometimes, when the council members are arguing about what to do, my father listens carefully and then gives the perfect solution. It's as if he can see the answers before anyone else." She paused and smiled as she remembered something. Once, there was a disagreement between two neighboring villages. They argued about the use of a river that flowed between them. Each village wanted the water for their crops, and they couldn't agree on how to share it. Myra's friends listened intently, eager to hear more. "My father called the leaders of both villages to the castle," she said. "He listened to their concerns and then asked them to walk with him along the river. They walked for hours, talking about their villages, their families, and what was best for everyone. And by the time they returned to the castle, both villages had agreed on how to share the river. My father didn't yell or argue. He just listened and helped them find a solution. It was amazing." Her friends nodded, impressed by the story. They were beginning to understand just how remarkable King Alden was. "But the best part of my father," Myra said, her voice softening, "is how much he loves me." Her friends looked at her curiously, sensing there was more to Myra's story. "After all the hard work of ruling the kingdom," Myra continued, her tone now full of warmth, "he always makes time for me. He comes home every evening, no matter how tired he is, and we play together. Sometimes, we play hide and seek in the royal garden. Other times, we build castles with my toys, and my father pretends to be the knight saving the princess." Myra smiled fondly at the thought. "Even though he's the king, he never acts like he's too busy or too important to play with me. He's just my dad." Her friends' eyes softened as they imagined the great king, who could command armies and make wise decisions for the kingdom, playing games with his little princess. "One time," Myra went on, her voice filled with joy, "we were playing a game where my father had to pretend to be a dragon, and I had to save the kingdom. He was so funny. He made the loudest growling noises and pretended to breathe fire. I couldn't stop laughing, and my father laughed too. It was the best moment ever. Her friends giggled, imagining the king as a dragon, and some of them wished they could play such games with him too. Myra paused, her eyes sparkling as she added one more thing. You know, she said, my father looks so strong. He's tall, with broad shoulders and muscles that look like they could lift anything. But he's also so gentle and kind. He has a way of making everyone feel safe. His eyes are bright, and when he speaks, it's like he knows exactly what to say to make everyone believe in themselves. He can handle anything, whether it's solving problems or just comforting someone who's feeling sad. Her friends nodded, understanding that King Alden wasn't just strong on the outside. He was powerful in his heart and mind as well. And do you know what the best thing is? Myra asked, her voice filled with excitement. Even though he's a king, he never acts like he's better than anyone else. He treats everyone with respect, whether they're the richest merchant or the poorest villager. He talks to everyone with kindness, and they all love him for it. It's why our kingdom is so peaceful. Her friends smiled, feeling a sense of admiration for the king, even though they had never met him. As Myra finished her story, the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the royal garden. Myra looked up at the sky, knowing that her father would soon be home. She always looked forward to the moment when King Alden would walk through the palace doors, ready to be a loving father, not just the mighty king. Do you want to know something else? Myra asked her friends, her voice full of excitement. My father's coming home soon. He promised we'd play together tonight, just like we always do. Her friends smiled, knowing that even the great King Alden had time for his little princess. They could imagine how happy Myra must be to have such a wonderful father. And sure enough, as the evening sky turned from gold to purple, a figure appeared at the entrance to the royal garden. It was King Alden, wearing his royal armor, but his face lit up as he saw his daughter standing there, waiting for him. Father! Myra called out, running to him with open arms. King Alden bent down to lift her up, his strong arms enveloping her in a warm embrace. Hello, my little one, he said with a smile. I've missed you today. Myra laughed and kissed his cheek. I've missed you too, Daddy. Are we going to play now? Of course, King Alden replied, his voice soft and full of love. What shall we play today? A dragon hunt? Or a castle to defend? Myra's eyes lit up. Let's pretend you're a dragon again. You're the fiercest dragon in the kingdom. King Alden grinned, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Very well, princess. Prepare to face the dragon. And so, the mighty king, who had saved his kingdom and ruled with wisdom, spent the evening chasing his daughter around the garden, roaring and pretending to breathe fire. Myra laughed and ran, her heart full of joy, as her father played along, forgetting for a moment that he was the king. In that moment, Myra knew one thing for sure. Her father, the brave king, would always be there for her, no matter what. And as the stars began to twinkle above, the little princess and her brave king father continued their game, a king and his daughter, laughing together in the peaceful kingdom they both loved.